Nobody expected Jason Garrett to quietly tiptoe through Week 16. But the moment he started pulling at these threads, the NFL conversation cracked wide open, because this wasn't just about who won or lost. This was about identity, direction, and the uncomfortable truth that some teams are being exposed at the exact moment they were supposed to be peaking. The Lions were supposed to be built for this time of year. The Steelers were supposed to be fading. Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be plateaued. And yet in one weekend, all of that got flipped on its head. And that's why the reactions feel so sharp, because when respected football minds start saying things like the Lions are barely hanging on, or that Trevor Lawrence looks like a completely different quarterback in year 5, or that Pittsburgh hit rock bottom only to look reborn weeks later, it forces everyone watching to question whether they've been reading the league completely wrong. This isn't hot take season for the sake of noise. This is the kind of analysis that makes fans uncomfortable because it challenges narratives they've been clinging to for months. And once those narratives crack, they don't just crack a little, they shatter. Because suddenly the team you trusted doesn't look trustworthy anymore. And the team you dismissed starts looking dangerous. That's why this week feels volatile. Because Week 16 didn't just reshuffle standings, it reshuffled belief. And when belief shifts this late in the season, the entire playoff picture starts to feel unstable. Here's what actually happened and why it's blowing up the way it is. While the show was still live, the Steelers and Lions were grinding through a game that ended up saying far more about Detroit than it did about Pittsburgh. The conversation immediately turned to what's wrong with the Lions, and the answers weren't sugar-coated. The absence of Ben Johnson wasn't framed as a minor inconvenience, it was framed as a void. What he did for Chicago only amplified what Detroit lost, and when Dan Campbell felt compelled to intervene and take over play calling, it sent a signal that something was off. It worked briefly, then it didn't, and now a team that once felt unstoppable suddenly feels fragile. Injuries piled up, not just in isolated spots but across the roster, to the point where the Lions were down to their third-string center, and that matters because this team was built on physical dominance up front. That dominance is gone. 4 first-round picks once turned the offensive line into a weapon, and now that edge has dulled. And if you want more of these deep dives as the season hits its most chaotic stretch, make sure you subscribe and drop a like, because this is where the real stories start coming out. Jason Garrett and the panel weren't guessing, they were pointing to evidence that can't be ignored. 15 rushing yards for Detroit. 15, with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery on the roster. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh racks up 230 rushing yards and finishes with 481 total yards. A season high for an offense that hasn't exactly been explosive all year. That stat alone tells you the Lions didn't just lose, they got pushed around. Jared Goff was under siege, sacked 3 times, constantly pressured, forced to look for secondary options because Pittsburgh clamped down on Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Jamison Williams. When Khalif Raymond becomes a focal point out of necessity, that's not strategy, that's survival. And on the other side, Pittsburgh looked balanced, confident, and physical, the exact opposite of what they were 3 weeks ago when they bottomed out at home, got booed during Renegade, and heard chants calling for Mike Tomlin to be fired. Since then, they haven't blinked. That's not just a slogan, it's a description of how they've responded. 19 straight seasons of finishing. 500 or better doesn't happen by accident, and suddenly they're right back in control of the AFC North. The Lions, meanwhile, look like a team searching for the version of themselves they thought they already were. Missing Ben Johnson matters. Missing Aaron Glenn matters. Losing physicality on both lines matters. And making a midstream philosophical shift at play caller, even while still scoring at a top 2 rate, created a sense of panic that this team hadn't shown before. That's the part that sticks with you. Not just that they lost, but how they lost. This was a team that used to get ahead and close games. Now they're struggling to even establish who they are when things go wrong. Then the focus shifted, and this is where the weekend really tilted, to Jacksonville going into Denver and doing what almost nobody expected. The Broncos had won 11 straight games. Their defense had been dominant, especially at home. And yet Trevor Lawrence walks in and looks like a quarterback reborn. Jason Garrett didn't pretend this came out of nowhere. The talent was always there. That's why he was the first pick. But the difference now is the absence of the self-inflicted wounds. No reckless mistakes, no unnecessary interceptions. Just clean, confident football under Liam Cohen. The relationship between quarterback and play caller feels synchronized. Aggression balanced with discipline. Shots when they're there, checkdowns when they're not. And suddenly the quarterback everyone thought had plateaued looks like he's still climbing. This wasn't just beating up on a struggling opponent. This was dominating in one of the loudest environments in the league, against a defense that had been setting the standard. Jacksonville didn't just survive, they built a lead. Went up 2 scores in the fourth quarter and held on. That matters. It tells you they can finish. It tells you they understand complementary football. When the offense delivers, the defense responds. When the defense creates turnovers, the offense capitalizes. Bo Nix struggled under pressure. He fumbled. He threw an interception. His QBR reflected it. Jacksonville's defense didn't need to score. They just needed to disrupt, and they did. The ripple effect is massive. 8 straight games of at least 25 points. A quarterback playing the cleanest stretch of football of his career. A team that suddenly understands how to win together. And now, impossibly, the Jaguars are in the conversation for the #1 seed in the AFC. That sentence alone would have sounded absurd weeks ago. But here we are. Liam Cohen wasn't hired to maintain Trevor Lawrence. He was hired to fix him. And right now, that plan looks frighteningly successful. As the playoff math unfolded, it only added to the chaos. 6 teams still technically alive for the top spot. Some paths clean, some borderline absurd. Denver controls its destiny if it wins out. If it doesn't, doors swing open everywhere. New England needs perfection and help. Jacksonville benefits from a head-to-head tiebreaker. The Chargers can flip everything with a late-season surge. Buffalo's path requires specific stumbles within the division, and Houston's road reads like a fever dream, possible only if everything breaks exactly right. The point isn't just the math, it's the volatility. Nothing feels settled, nothing feels safe. And that's what makes Jason Garrett's breakdown resonate. This wasn't about hype. It was about exposing how thin the margins really are. Detroit isn't collapsing because of one bad night. They're unraveling because foundational elements are missing. Pittsburgh isn't surging by accident. They rediscovered balance and belief. Jacksonville isn't lucky, they're aligned. Trevor Lawrence isn't suddenly talented. He's finally consistent. Week 16 didn't answer questions. It created new ones. Are the Lions built to withstand adversity? Or were they a perfect storm that's already passed? Are the Steelers dangerous again? Or just hot at the right time? Is Trevor Lawrence entering his prime right now? Or is this just a late-season flash? Jason Garrett didn't pretend to settle those debates. He sharpened them. And as the season barrels toward its final weeks, that tension is exactly what makes this stretch of football impossible to look away from.